Welcome to Saxon Math, Course 3, Lesson Investigation 11, Nonlinear Functions. Now, a nonlinear function is usually going to be in regards to something called a quadratic equation or parabola when we're first starting out with them, and when you're going into them next year. Now, if we push a ball off of a building and take pictures of it every half second, it might look something like this, where the ball starts up at the top of the building, we push it off, and then it's falling, and it's falling, and it's falling. Now, one thing you should note about this is as it's falling, it follows a curved path. It does not go in a straight line, right? It doesn't go in a straight line. Can't connect these dots with a ruler. Can't connect more than two of them at least. Now, it doesn't follow a straight line. It follows a curved path. And that curved path is going to be called a parabola. Alright. Now, activity 1 asks us to use the diagram to chart the height. Now, at 0 seconds, it's at 48 feet. At a half second, it's lost a little bit of it, maybe about 4 feet of this, 4 feet between 48 and 36. So we're going to say it's at 44. Then at this next dot is below 36. It's probably about as far below 36 as this is below 48. So we're going to say that that's 32. And then we've got here at 1.5 seconds, it's at 12. So we've put those in our table here. And now it's going to ask us to use the function y equals negative 16x squared plus 48. Now, 0 squared is 0. 0 times negative 16 is 0. And 0 plus 48 is 48. Well, if we square 1/2, a half times a half is 1/4. 1/4 of negative 16 is negative 4. So negative 4 plus 48, that's 44. And what if we had 1 squared? 1 squared is 1 times negative 16. 48 minus 16 is 32. What about 1.5 squared? Well, 1.5, if we square it, is 1.5 times 1.5, or 3 halves times 3 halves. So that means we're going to divide 16 by 4 and then multiply by 9, because if we have 3 over 2 times 3 over 2, that's 9 over 4. And 9/4 of 16 is 36. So we're going to have negative 36 plus 48, and that's 12. And you'll notice these two tables are exactly the same. Now, since those two tables are the same, what we say is that that equation, y equals negative 16x plus 48, models the path of the ball falling. And in a perfect world, any object that was thrown off of a building would fall at that rate, that y equals negative 16x squared plus 48 rate. Now, there is a resistance. Things that aren't shaped as nicely as a ball will fall slower in reality, but in a vacuum, they would fall at that rate. Now, since the equation has the term x squared in it, we call this a quadratic function. If the largest exponent is a power of 2, we call it a quadratic function. Now, a quadratic function makes parabolas. Now, one thing I want to note here is over in this curve, we don't go into the negatives. And we don't go into the negatives because we can't have negative time. But if we did have a negative number squared using this negative 16x squared, if we took, for example, 1 squared was 1, but negative 1 squared is also 1. That means that the negative side of this function is going to mirror the positive side. They're going to look like mirror images. So, because a negative squared gives the same answer as that number as a positive squared. So this line is nonlinear, and it does not have a constant rate of change. Now, a constant rate of change is just a slope. It doesn't have a slope. We can't find a point on this line that tells us how fast it's going for the whole line. It changes. The amount of change in y over change in x between these 2 points, that's just one box. But between these 2 points, that's 3 boxes over 1x, right? We're changing 1 and 1, and then 1 and 3. And we're changing our rate of change. That's because it goes faster as time goes by. Now, what that means is if we were talking about the rate of change of the ball falling, the ball's accelerating. It's going faster as it goes down. The longer a ball falls, the faster it will go, until eventually, because of air resistance, it reaches its terminal velocity, which is just when it's going as fast as it could possibly go. Now, there's an activity 2 and activity 3. There are 4 questions between the two of them. One has to do with a person throwing a ball up and then the ball coming down. And then the other has to do with the area of a rectangle with different side lengths. Activity 2 and 3, questions 3 through 6, are your homework. So stay safe, stay inside, and wash your hands.